Thank you very much, Shocks. And guys, the Evil Geniuses looked quite impressive in their 3-game sweep of Determined Gaming. Crepo had some great ultimates starting off on this one. What were you guys thinking once he got Leona? A lot of people thought it could be treacherous for them because it may be too much all-in, but he seemed to be back in form.
You know, the first game, seeing him Leona, I wasn't going to be expecting too much. It's the first game when you see these teal them out, see how he's going to do work on it. Now, the last game, after the first 2 wins, when he got Leona, right there, you know something's going to happen, that they're going to be able to do plays with Leona, and they made it happen. You know, Leona was involved in a large part of the kills and snowballed the game really well for them, even though she was put in the 2v1 lane.
And Crumbzz, I want to talk a little bit more real quick about comfort, and Freak, chime in on this as well, because I think it's something we saw right in the beginning. Crepo was calm after that first game. He sat there and they knew they had to win another. The second game, everybody was calm. What does this mean, and how does that kind of transfer into your games?
You know, you can't put aside the fact that the EG lineup has had endlessly more experience than Determined's lineup. They've played in Worlds. They've played multiple LCS. They've played practically every league event that has happened. So they have a lot of experience. You know, nerves aren't going to get to them. They've already qualified through things like these before. Determined hasn't really had that experience. And games like these are the ones that get you the most nervous, the ones where your lives are on the line, where there's so much more at stake.
Right.
Playing for Worlds isn't as nerve-wracking as playing for your job, your life, what's going to happen to you in the next year. So I think that really came into play what we saw today when Determined really didn't know what to do. They weren't a unit. They didn't show up.
Freak, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I completely agree with Crumbzz right here. Basically, I feel like the EG lineup, especially the old EG players, really stepped up. I actually have to commend Snoopy a lot because a lot of people called him a bit of a weak link. You think back to the summer split, they actually tried out a new jungler in Shacker to see if they could improve their lineup's chances. He was subbed out for part of that season, and he stepped up huge throughout this series. Finally, in Game 3, as Olaf got banned, did even better on Elise. The EG group right here played better than they ever have before when the pressure was on, whereas you saw guys like Arthalon play worse than they normally do at home, and that was a really big factor, I think, here. These guys' experience meant a lot.
And that flows right into adaptation, really being able to figure out from game to game how to resolve the conflicts that you are having. And Crumbzz, you didn't see that in Champion Select.
Exactly. You know, we saw in Game 2 that Determined got a ban taken away from them, but that should not affect the fact that they were not able to adapt each game with their bans and picks. Their picks did not mirror something that you'd say, okay, this is what happened in the first game, this is what happened in the second game. We need to change each game accordingly to what they're doing to beat us. They failed to recognize how EG beat them, and that eventually cost them in the last game. You know, we saw 3 games back-to-back of Ziggs. They even first picked, so EG, they recognized what was winning them the game. The Ziggs pick, they first picked it in the last game, and we saw at 5 minutes in, he had a 20 CS lead on Lissandra.
Exactly. I really want to stress that point because one of the bans that was spent here by Determined was on Kassadin. Now, Kassadin is a strong champion. I understand him being contested. I understand that being an important champion to pick for a team. But Determined was losing in the laning phase. They weren't losing in team fights. They weren't losing because they were getting out-roamed. They were losing because they lost their lane straight up, specifically Arthalon's lane, more than anyone else. And they still ban out the weak early game champion who spikes later. They leave the Ziggs open to bully out Arthalon's champion picks, right? His Gragas banned all 3 times, right? They got rid of Arthalon's comfort zone. And then even think forward to the rest of Champ Select here, where finally in Game 3, the 10th champion picked is Westrice's Akali. And it's like, if I'm going to go out, I'm going to go out playing Akali. And that's fine, but ban the counter picks. They left Mundo up, but they didn't ban a Renekton. They left the lane bully mid lane Ziggs. They even sent him mid lane against Ziggs to go get crushed. And that, I think, was a series of misplays in just terms of game planning by Determined.
Going down knowing you're firing your best guns, though.
Yeah.
As you feel it.
I mean, you have to recognize that your best guns may be a little bit outdated.
This is true, indeed. So now to wrap up day 1 of the North American Spring Promotion Tournament.